School Board, I'd like to welcome everyone to come to the meeting, and we'll get this budget hearing started.
Okay, I'm going to try to go with half the mic. I have a fairly big voice. Some people call it otherwise sometimes. But, I'd rather not use a mic if I don't have to, but if I need to, I will. Chad assures me that the equipment will pick me up fine. So we'll go over the work we've done so far and present what we have tonight. There's several, as you know, there's several more steps in this process. There's a lot more work to be done, but at this point, we are presenting our budget for tonight. The philosophy of the board, as you can see, dedicated process that represents the actual cost, provide a quality and effective education while responsibly managing resources by balancing the needs of students with what the community can afford. And I think it's well known at this point that unfortunately some of the finance dynamics of the community changed with the change in evaluation that we experienced this year. Some of the priorities from the board in putting the budget together: standard-based curriculum assessment recording, continuing our work with technology. We've come a long ways, I think, with use of technology in our classrooms. It's rare that I go to a classroom I don't see our teachers using technology, our students using technology. Aligning curriculum of assessments with SBAC, SAT, NEWA, other assessments that we do as well. Supporting research-based practices, ensuring students' socio-emotional needs are addressed as well. We aspire to provide a rigorous, competitive academic experience for all students, effective district leadership and fiscal oversight, the facilities management planning and implementation. Again, a lot of work's been done with this in the past few years. Beginning of this budget, the work of this budget represents some continuing work in that area. Cycle of facilities maintenance and management, orientation support for the new superintendent, review and refine the budget process, and then finally monitor student achievement and success. Not finally, that probably should be toward the top. Obviously very important. So a little bit about the budget process to date. As we started putting the budget together, we soon realized with some of our increased costs that we had, that just to keep a budget, kind of keep the programs as they were without changing a whole lot, would require around $500,000 of additional revenue. And again, I think in the fiscal climate that we're in right now, that was difficult, I think, for people to accept. We work through this. Town Budget Committee asked us to reduce $400,000. I think that was in that initial meeting, with the suggestion that more would probably be needed. The board finally, we came back in 12-15 with a reduction of $600,000 from the level funded budget. Okay, we have several articles we'll talk about. Election of school board members, moderator, clerk, treasurer. General acceptance of reports. I won't read all these. These are the actions that are taken routinely. The operating budget. Shall the Littleton School District raise an operating budget, not excluding appropriations by special warrant and other appropriations voted separately? The amount set forth the budget posted with warrant or as amended by vote in the first session for the purchases set forth therein totaling $16,336,859. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $17,399,073, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Littleton School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013-10-16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Again, the proposed 17-18 operating budget, 16,336,859, represents a decrease of a little over $600,000, 3.5% from our current year. Potential tax impact, a decrease of 83 cents per thousand on the tax rate. And as noted below, of course, the tax rate is, we found out again this year, is dependent on a number of factors, including adequacy aid, assessed valuation, unassigned fund balance, and other variables. Okay, so obviously we have to make some reductions. We'll go through those. I know that this is a difficult time, particularly for our employees, people who work in the school. And I know we're doing our best to communicate with people, to work forward together. But this represents, as we're preparing the budget, the areas of reduction, how much is being reduced. Go through it. Regular education, 156, 199. Special education, slight decrease. Vocational education, significant increase or decrease. Co-curriculars, a bit of a decrease. Instructional support staff and media, decrease. Board and superintendent's office, a decrease. School administration, decrease there. Business services, food service, and of course debt service due to the lowering of the principal. A few increases: student support services, operations and maintenance, transportation, technology, $7 on services. That was up, but got to get it, put it there. NEAF accreditation. This again is an estimate, as many of our budget numbers are. But in the year ahead, what estimate is that will involve? With the net decrease of $600,555, and that's 3.6%. Okay, the charts, and I hope the hard copy printouts are helpful for you. I know that the font's a little small there, but you can see how the various budget splits out in the pie chart. Enrollment, and most current enrollment numbers taken in late December. We are getting with our Career Tech Center, we are getting more and more students coming in from neighboring schools, and we have students also who go out to some of our tech centers that are in our consortium. 15, 16 students that do that as well, but by far the students we bring in are much greater in number than those who go out. Special education program, and then the academy. This is a look at the enrollment over the past few years, going back to 2006 through the current year. Unfortunately, this is rural America. Where I come from in Kansas, there's districts that would probably feel fortunate to have the loss be this small, actually. But this unfortunately is a bit of a trend in rural America. Schools getting smaller, families getting smaller. The projection, again, according to NASDAQ, is to continue with some losses, although some of the, according to their projections, some of the bigger losses are a bit behind us, but there will be, according to this projection, some continuing deterioration in the numbers through at least 2026. This is, again, this is a projection that's done by NEF as well. I used this slide in earlier presentations back in December, but I think it's notable. We start looking at our overall numbers, the goldenrod line, which unfortunately shows that decline. But then you start looking at our buildings a little bit, and we are seeing at this point some loss of student count at Lakeway, some slight increases in student count in the middle school, high school. But then as you start going out toward 2025, 26, the trends switch a bit. And all of a sudden, Lakeway's growing. The number of students there is growing pretty steadily, going back up and approaching 400, surpassing levels current, and then those lower numbers that we're experiencing in Lakeway now begin to influence and affect enrollment here at this particular program. A lot can happen, obviously, between now and 2025, 26, but that's the best data that we have at this point. Projected changes in personnel. And again, I know this makes everybody nervous, rightfully so. This is the most difficult part of the process. And I think I've worked in education for a while. And my mom was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher, I have an uncle who's a teacher, my wife's a teacher. This is the hardest part. You have to start looking at cutting and changing and reorganizing, reducing, and again, how that eventually shakes out we'll work through in the upcoming weeks. But we are projected to reduce positions a bit. Some positions that have been full-time will perhaps be part-time in the future. And again, some reconfiguration of existing positions. This is looking at our healthcare costs. We're actually going to spend a little less on that, again, in part because of some of the staffing reductions that we'll be encountering. We were lucky. We didn't have a huge increase that some of our neighboring SAUs have experienced, which is good, but we never know from year to year. Depends a lot on our usage and other factors. But you'll see that the professional staff plan is fairly, again, for right now, 5.4% is great. We take that. Many places would trade with it. As a matter of fact, a number of schools would happily trade the 12.9 as well. So we're happy with those numbers. Not numbers in the 20s, and we are hearing numbers in the 20s in some of our neighboring SAUs, unfortunately. Revenue. New Hampshire schools are primarily financed through locally raised revenue, as you know. There is a state contribution, and a couple different sources through the ed tax, through the general fund, some federal funding, some grants, and some miscellaneous revenue as well. little different look, same types of things, but looking at the source of the revenue. The default budget, again, is Tom, help me with the exact definition, make sure I get it right, but it's basically keeping things as they are and accounting for increased costs in the current program. Is that?
The current approved budget, adjusted for contractual obligations and adjusted for a reduction of one-time expenditures. You do have a handout that details the various components with explanations and totals at the bottom.
You said it much better than me. Okay, a few of the warrant articles that we've been discussing with the board. We need a new elementary school. We need a new building. Okay, that's a hard thing to do in the current stat where we are right now, with our budget where it is, with our tax rate where it is, with what just happened. We know that. We know that. And I think as a board, we're committed to working with our budget with an eye toward, in the very near future, hopefully being able to work with the community and look at replacing our current elementary school. This is simply a preliminary step that will give us the authority to do some preliminary work. Not to purchase property per se, but to purchase, again, option to purchase property. These kinds of things have to happen well in advance of when any kind of an actual project would be presented to the voters. So that will be one of the warrant articles at this point we plan to present. I went over to the gym just a little while ago expecting to see some water on the floor over here. Probably tomorrow, the temperature is going to be in the 40s, it will be there. I think we know there was a fairly costly repair that had to be done to the gym floor a year ago because of the leak in the roof. This, we're going to work with dealing with the roof issues through the budget. We're looking at, again, asking the voting public whether they wish to do some work on the interior of the gym as well, that being the ceiling, renovating that part of it. School facilities maintenance capital reserve. This is replenish the fund balance. Again, no more than $50,000 raised by this particular warrant article. This simply will allow that particular fund to have a balance that's in the neighborhood of what we carry now. This is your equipment, similar type of warrant to replenish that fund. And then as a process, the town, the taxpayers have the right to present a petition for warrant articles. So I want to go through those. We did receive three such articles. Article 1, the school district will vote to require all votes taken by the advisory budget committee and the school board regarding budget items or warrant articles be recorded votes, and the numerical tally of each such vote be printed on the town warrant next to the affected article. Again, giving the voters a sense of where these two bodies stand on the particular warrant article. School budget meeting to see if the school district shall vote to instruct the school board to meet on a minimum of a quarterly basis with the Littleton Board of Selectmen and the Littleton Town School Budget Committee to present financial and budget reports. One meeting shall be on or about September 30th of each year to publicly discuss the settling of the tax rate for the town and school district, and shall be held a minimum of 10 days prior to setting the tax rate by the State Department of Revenue Administration. And a third petition warrant article to see if the school district will vote to revoke the authority and discontinue the retention of years end unassigned funds, which was granted on March 3rd, 2013. And all said funds, $249,000, $249,600, plus accrued interest shall be used to reduce the tax rate. That's the third of the three petition warrant articles that we received. And that is the last slide. So we open to questions, comments, and again we'll answer the questions as forthcoming as we can. But this is still a work in progress. Certain items of the budget at this point, and until those affected are we work with and work through some of those, we won't be able to discuss tonight, but certainly any questions or comments are welcome at this time.
Well, let's start. First question for you, sir. You're projecting about $1 million deviation between our proposed and our default budget. Walk me through, other than just the gross, and explain to me the differences of what I'm losing for curriculum, programs, personnel, and equipment in this general budget. I want to know what $1 million is that I lose between contractual items and my proposed budget. And you can do it by function code. That'll work well for me. So I can follow you.
I think Art, that specific programs that involves personnel, obviously individuals. I know at the deliberative session we have more specific items, but at this point we've looked at a lot of different programs, and we've looked at enrollments in programs. We've looked at our schools, what we believe are the priorities. Yeah, I know I'm not giving you the line by line, blow by blow that you've asked for, but at this point, most of those conversations have happened at the board involving personnel, and at this point, that's what we have to present.
Okay, let's leave personnel.
I don't know if I'm.
I mean, this is a hearing, so leave personnel out of it. If you want to respect personnel, I'll respect the board's interest in personnel. But this is a hearing. You have to disclose the budget. You have to tell us what it is before we go to deliberative in 30 days. So we have to know what we're losing for $1 million. It's not $250,000, it's $1 million.
A number, I mean, I'll answer this the best that I can. I think that as we started looking at the budget we currently have, and of course the default budget is highly reflective of that, there's unspent funds that are going to be in this year's budget for a variety of reasons that frankly aren't going to be there next year. There's not going to be as much margin. This budget is built on a different set of assumptions, different personnel and key positions. Obviously some changes in programs which affects personnel, but it's also a case of when the budget, as you know, you put these together as a board member, when you put a budget together, you put a budget together based on what you have and what those personnel are expected to cost. And when the final budget, when the year is done or you get into the year, sometimes you hire personnel that are more expensive. Sometimes you hire personnel that are less expensive. That explains part of it. We've also tried to look. One of the key points of the philosophy was to try to have the budget as closely as we can reflect the costs that we actually have. And I think we have to be. I think we have to be pretty honest about, at least from my perspective, try to be as honest as I can. and as forthcoming as I can. I think that we've seen budgets in the past that frankly were probably a little easier to manage because there was a little more margin for error. This particular budget, one way we get to that $1 million is there's very little margin for error. That's, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
No.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I'm not done. I mean,
Yeah.
in fairness, as a board member, when we brought Mandarin Chinese as a cut, we said that at the budget hearing, and we told the taxpayers what programs they were going to lose. I don't have a child here, so it isn't that my child is going to lose Chinese, Spanish, whatever it is. But in fairness, you're talking about a massive sum of money, and it's a general answer like that really isn't fair. But I'm not going to grill you because I don't want to be disrespectful to you.
No,
But
I
I'll let somebody else drill you on that. I've hit my point. I've hit my point. You
Yeah,
got
no
it,
problem.
and it isn't right, and I don't think it's right. But
Okay.
that aside, this is a question for Tom. We voted on 16,870,000 on our ballot, and you're showing 16,336, and you're saying it's a $600,000 difference. Can I show you this? I don't know that we're both starting with the same number. This is our ballot that we voted on. So this is what we voted and approved on, but you're saying that it's 16,300.
But you have other items that added into that.
But nothing can total that top operating budget.
This
You
became,
can track
that became part of the appropriation.
Fair enough.
You have to add that into it.
That's good. I'm good. Good. Last question I have for you real quick
Yes, sir.
is, what are we doing with the maintenance capital reserve? Why are we asking for 60, putting in 50? Why aren't we just taking the money out of the 50,000 maintenance instead of putting 50 in, taking 60? That seems retarded, Monty. Why are we doing that?
Again, we continue to have at least particularly one building, I think we know, Lakeway, that the maintenance needs are pretty unpredictable there.
What's the balance?
What's that?
What's your balance in the account?
I don't know. Tom?
Have it here.
I mean, it just seems counter, you're putting in 50,
Yeah.
pulling 60.
But there's also a warrant article to get rid of all of them. So if they get rid of the funds.
Not all of them. That's
Well,
not
the
true.
funds.
That's just your overlay, that's not your specific, speaking to each individual fund, so that's your overall. That's just the amount of money that the school is allowed to retain that is newly vetted to them, so they can hold that money without asking you permission what to do with it. So,
Can we everybody hear what you're up to here?
what I was just responding to is she was asking me, did that warrant article, that's a petition warrant article that takes the power away from the school board
Yeah.
to retain that money, why that account is being withdrawn, and that is not specifically speaking to that building maintenance account that will still stay in existence. So there's 6, 7 different other accounts to answer her question that are allowed, 5 that are allowed to do that. So again, I'm as baffled as you are that we have all these accounts, but we're not pulling the money from them, and we're asking to put more money in. It just seems like three-card Monty going on.
Well,
there with that.
that's not quite true.
Well, why put the 60 in and the 50? What have we drawn out of it? What's left in it? Let's answer those questions.
You know, we originally weren't planning, when we met with the budget committee, and Steve can attest to this, we weren't planning to put those warrant articles on. That wasn't our initial intention. But as you know, on Friday, we received some petition articles. And if we haven't totally decided on the warrant articles, those 2 fund articles, okay? But we have not met as a board since receiving the petitioned articles. We haven't had any discussion. We can't yet because we didn't have a board meeting, right? So we don't have them at the hearing tonight. We can't put them out there at all. So that's why they're on for tonight, if that helps you understand that.
Just that, yeah. So what I would recommend is modify it to the language of that warrant article if you want it on here, for asking us the permission to move that 60, which is sounding like a well expense from your maintenance account, that's all.
I hear what you're saying. We need to have some more discussion about it, and we're waiting on some figures. We have 2 issues. We have the exterior of the high school gym roof, which is very old. I think 1989 it was put on, and we're in 2017, and it's really it's been leaking. It's had some problems. We thought we had it fixed. It's leaking again. We're going to need to replace that. We have some other issues on the interior of the gym, which are related to the sprinklers and the lighting, which are some safety issues. that we're figuring out about. So that's what those are related. But that 60,000 isn't going to be enough to fix the roof, probably, on the exterior side of that. So we're definitely looking at using our facilities reserve fund.
which has about 137,000 right now. We've drawn $125,000 out of reserve funds this fiscal year for various projects.
I will follow up on the earlier question to Art. As we put the budget together at this point, there are academic programs that will see reductions. There are no academic programs at this point that will see elimination. We'll have to adjust again. We're trying to use, based on enrollments, projected enrollments. There are other programs, support programs that aren't directly providing services to students that are a part of our production. I don't know if that helps, but if you have any specific programs in mind that you've heard that those, I mean, there's no programs that are totally eliminated at this point. Yeah.
A couple of quick ones.
Yep.
Can you talk about the high school gym room?
Yes,
You
sir.
talk about Daisy Bronson, because in all of our
Uh-huh.
pre-meetings, we're talking about Daisy Bronson.
We often talk about middle school, high school, just to acknowledge the fact that both programs use this particular gym, but it's the gym roof in this particular
That's
building.
in this building.
In this
So
building.
we're not touching the Daisy Bronson
No.
roof at this point? Okay.
No.
Looking at this reduction of personnel, basically that results in 11 heads being reduced this year.
Correct.
Okay. What does that bring your teacher ratio down to? Because right now you're at 1.9. State average is 1.12, so you're well over man at this point.
Right.
So what is that going to bring you down to on your ratio?
I haven't calculated the ratio. Yeah, I'm just going to give you an honest answer. I haven't calculated the ratio. Obviously, that will change the ratio somewhat.
Okay, but you don't know what 11 will bring you down to as far
No,
as will it be
I don't.
1 in 10, 1 in 11, which still gives us room for more reductions.
I mean, it would put us in a different relation to the state, of course. It would probably be more in line with the state, but that certainly won't put us at the state average. Yeah. Yeah.
With the reduction of programs,
Uh-huh.
will our students be competitive as they have been in the past? How
I-
does that affect the student population?
You want to use resources the best that we can and to maximize student opportunities. That's what I said, that the student performance opportunities is what we have to protect.
Okay, can I be more specific?
Sure.
Yeah, will we be replacing programs with online computer programs?
I'm not going to say that'll never happen here, because that would be foolish. I mean, that would be bucking the trend of this particular location we're in. More and more schools are using online, and we are too, by the way, in some of our programs, some of our credit recovery programs, some of our alternative routes to high school diploma we're already doing. So no, I'm not going to say that in the future this school won't continue to look at other options. Having said that, again, I strongly believe that you can't replace a good teacher with a machine. You can't, because as we all know, teaching is a whole lot more than simply delivering information.
So with that said,
Yeah.
my concern is that our students in the past have been competitive and been able to apply to, in some cases, prestigious colleges.
Sure.
These computer programs that might be used, some of them will not allow our students that, like, I know there are AP courses. Some are good, some are not.
Right.
Who is going to be the deciding factor in choosing those for top-notch kids who, and we have many, in our school. How did you determine that?
You mean which courses would potentially, you know, we
Which
have.
courses would be the best for
we
a
have
level
a-
1 student or an AP student that wants to go to Georgetown University
Right.
or wants to go to Harvard? Is that determined by the long distance learning? Because if you have a person in there, an instructor, that individual can be spoken to. An online course, oh yeah, you have paperwork and everything, but you really don't know if that student is doing the work or not. And that's my point. So, yes, we have long distance learning, we have online courses.
Right.
But are they comparable to what an AP course delivered by an instructor?
The experience is going to be different for every student. I think we know that, Denise. I've seen both. I've seen online courses that worked well with some students. I've seen them that worked lousy with some students. I think it depends a lot on the student. You know, that hasn't been something that's something we need to have a conversation with as a school district and within the community, by the way. This school and community has a lot to talk about going forward, by the way. I just brought up some of the poignant points. You know, we have 30% of our kids showing up in kindergarten with no preschool experience, I'm told. We need to talk about how we feel about that as a community. We have kids coming into our kindergarten classes, some of whom are reading at second, third grade level, I suspect, or more, who've traveled all over the country, perhaps to Europe, perhaps whatever. We have kids that don't know the colors or how to count. You know, we have a lot of work to do here, and I think that the great thing is that, you know, this school district, in the short time I've been here, if I've seen anything, I've seen the ability of this town to rally around its school, the ability of the people at the school to rally around and do what's best for kids. And so I think, again, Denise, going back to the question, those are conversations that the community needs to have in a broader sense. I think at this point that hasn't been a huge part of our conversation in terms of our program. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if any of the cuts were going to impact the opportunities we provide to our students in regards to before and after school support with teachers, extended library hours, the Learn program and stuff like that, which I think not only benefit students in our school population, but benefit the community as a whole, especially, you know, where internet access might be an issue, good place to do homework and stuff like that. I was just curious if those programs were going to be impacted.
You know, those are decisions we'll be making going forward, and those won't be made in isolation. And I appreciate, you know, one thing I really appreciated when I got here was that this school district has committed the resources and the programming to help kids in a lot of different ways. The before school, the after school, the Learn program, the academy. So, you know, those, I think the key to it is figuring out within the resources that we have how we can use them best and how we can impact kids the best going forward. And certainly those programs will be in that discussion. Yes,
Without
Denise.
sounding ignorant, the out-of-district students that come here, I think the number was 107. Do they pay tuition to come here?
They do.
Okay.
And Tom, Al, you can tell me how much exactly?
It's
Approximately 500,000 dollars.
Total.
Fine.
Yeah. Yep, and that's a tremendous, you know, that speaks well. I mean, again, I think that's what I said when I came here in April. I interviewed, and my wife and daughter, we went through Lakeway, and then we came over here, and walked through the facilities, and we were blown away by the CTC and what we saw there, and certainly other aspects as well, but that's a crown jewel. You know, the people who are, you're still paying for them every year, but that was a good investment. Investing in this building like we have is a good investment. We need to start talking about some other attendance centers as well in the near future, but that was a very good investment.
So it looks like there's $256,000 being cut from instruction between general instruction and vocational education. And you can't elaborate on what that is being comprised of?
No, I mean, they're reductions. They're not outright elimination of programs, at least not teaching, not programs that directly affect kids. There are other support programs. They're a part of that, but not the actual. I mean, there are reductions in also academic programs, but not
Such as,
elimination.
Such
Yeah.
as what? Like what academic programs are being cut from that?
Well, and if I was misinformed of what we can and can't or are supposed to talk about tonight, I'm sorry. But then I'll defer to the board if they wish to go down that road. We should start going down that road and identifying people and positions and.
So if this isn't the right time, what is the right time for the
As I
community to get
understood
that
the
information?
deliberative session,
The deliberative
is when
session?
there's more specificity. If I'm
Is
By
that
then
right?
we'll-
wrong about that, I'll gladly defer to those who've done this more than I have.
Is that true? I'm not getting an answer. Yes? No?
Okay, I was talking, what was the, can you,
So when does the community get more specifics about what programs are comprising this money?
well, pardon me? I guess the deliberative session is what the consensus was, so.
See, we're presented with these warrants, okay, and this decision to cut the budget. This is a hearing to let you know that. Now, we as a board, we have not approved any of them. They have been given to us to peruse, which we're doing. So we've got to do that. We haven't exactly decided definitely on anything. Is that true? Am I
That, we have not taken an official
Okay.
vote on this budget yet.
So we
okay?
have
I mean, we're
between-
headed in a direction, certainly, but.
We have between now and deliberative to do that.
Okay.
Can I interject for a second? In fairness, in truth and fairness, 30 days before the voting, okay, second Tuesday in March, we vote as a group. We vote on two numbers, 1 and 2. 30 days before that, we're offered a hearing in order to hear the budget and make a corrective action. Is the only time in which the legislative body can make a right or a wrong or modification. Tonight, we can't. We are in a hearing process. The
Right.
purpose of the hearing, whether you voted on it or not, with all due respect, is for the body to hear your proposal of what we are going to modify on the floor 30 days previous to prior to the vote. So in fairness, because you didn't vote is not our problem tonight. It is our problem to hear, it's our solution to hear what you're going to propose to us in 30 days to modify. So in fairness, you should have voted, in fairness. Because it's a personnel issue and you haven't done that, that's not up to us. We have the right to hear, ask all the questions associated to the line items. We cannot ask about a human being, a person, a salary connected to a healthcare cost, but we can have the right to ask about curriculums and programs that are going to be cut, and that is truthful. It's been done, Millie, while you've been on the board, while Ann Wiggett's been on the board,
As
and
you.
me too. And we know that, and it's okay, we won't press you. I think we should respect that the board didn't vote, and they just haven't made that decision yet. So what they're telling us tonight is, they didn't make that decision. These people, the superintendent came up with an idea, they have not cemented it yet. They're not going to tell us.
You're making it sound like we have been
No.
negligent in
No, no.
our process, and
No.
that's not true.
No, you're not.
We've met our guidelines. What we've done is we've come up with these proposals. We're letting you know about these things. And that's, we never, you were on the board, we have never voted tonight to say, this is emphatically what we're going to do, and we're going to cut that,
I've done
and
it.
we're going to cut that. We don't do that.
I did it.
You know,
Andrew Chinese, I
that's
did it.
disrespectful
I
to
did it.
the audience.
I did it. It's done. While I have your attention too, did you guys, since we're talking about the impact on our estimated tax rate, did you guys freeze our current 16-17 operating budget yet?
No formal action's been taken by the board.
So we haven't frozen the budget we're in now to return as much to minimize the impact.
We are managing the budget.
No, but we definitely have that in our mindset.
I thought we did that.
That ends in June.
So,
Yep.
That's a good question. That one I'll give you.
Well, on that question too, is where are we at? Have we looked, has the board looked at reducing, subletting out our SAU services? The 710 kids we have tonight, have you guys looked at subbing out our services, our superintendent in their offices to another district? Have we looked at trying to minimize that top-heavy cost?
No.
Okay.
And no, probably won't.
I would just like to make one more comment. I've got nothing to do with this school. I'm a taxpayer. Recently, we just got our recent tax bill. It went up to $2.59 per thousand, which is a significant increase to the taxpayers in this community. So what we're looking for is for the school and the town to come back with a budget that will help reduce and help us out with some of that $2.59. Right here, you've got an 83 cents per thousand back off that $2.59. Between the school and the town, you're giving back to the taxpayers less than $1 per thousand. So the taxpayers still have to come up with $1.59 per thousand out of their pockets. That's where the school has to make these cuts. You've got to start looking at these cuts, and even next year, you're going to have to start looking deeper. Because if the rates keep going up, the taxpayers can't afford it. There's a lot of taxpayers in this town just can't afford to keep up those rates. So that's just a comment I want to make.
I'm a taxpayer too. My bill went up $750.
A lot of that was the assessment, right?
Yep.
Valuation, all are doing for the town. Had to do with the
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm invested in this community quite a bit already.
But a
I
lot of
think I made a
taxpayers,
statement. Yeah.
a lot of taxpayers are on fixed incomes.
Yep.
They're retired, they're on fixed incomes, they're never gonna get an increase.
Yep.
So if we keep seeing $1.59 to $2.59 increases, and now the town's got another significant warrant article that's coming on this year that's gonna be a $2 million process that has to be done, and it's gonna cost us over the next 4 years for that $2 million. So somewhere along the line, something's gotta happen to pay back the taxpayer so they don't have to come up with the money to cover all this. Because as a taxpayer, like I said, I'm here as a taxpayer. That's my concern. My tax bill went up $800 a year. I'm on a fixed income. I got a 0.3% pay increase. That's it. So I have to come up with the $800 out of my own pocket somewhere.
What's up with the Eaton property? Can we sell that? The Eaton property? Have you guys looked at selling that for your $100,000 warrant article? Have you guys looked at that? I mean, that's a source of revenue.
We haven't looked at it specifically.
We had that on the books. I don't remember what was the deed?
I thought the town owned
Belongs to
that.
town.
Right, but it was for the purpose of getting permission
I don't think
to,
we can sell it.
I don't remember what the deed was.
It's ours.
I don't remember, but there was some strings to it.
I believe that expired
Did it?
like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, good thought.
I don't know. Looking for money.
I think there was another question over here.
We all are.
Except for the question.
Yep.
Line 2210, improvement of instruction. So that one looks like we're taking it down by 91%. So that basically, what falls into 22?
Tom has a cheat sheet in front of him. He can give you the funds
Okay.
for that. Go ahead.
That is personnel. We're restructuring the use of instructional coaches. So that particular function is taking a big hit, yes.
questions?
Thank you for coming. We hope we answered your questions.